this new era of the internet, short and memorable web addresses are really critical to capture the attention of consumers as they're looking online and as they are navigating online, how to get names in their head so that they can remember them, so that they can go to them. And yes, search is very important, but if you can't even remember how to spell a certain brand name in order to search for it, that becomes a problem. So you still want to be able to search and to have a brandable presence within that name. And from there, a lot of times, I don't know if you have experienced this, but many customers, they start to make similar the fact that they want a .com, and they say, well, I need a .com. Really what they're looking for is a website, right? But they're like, I just need a .com. And we're trying to figure out, do you really want a .com or do you really just need a website, right? And there's a lot of different types of products out there that have kind of become mainstream, and the brand name becomes the generic term. So that you start saying that brand name when really what you mean is a generic term. And .com, we don't think .com should become the generic term. .com is very important. .com is the largest domain name on the internet today, but it's not the generic term for any website, right? Some examples of some other brands and generic terms. Some of these, mostly from the US. I'm sure there's others here that I don't know about, but you know, as you're sneaking through. So in the US, we don't necessarily ask if somebody needs a facial tissue if they sneeze. We say, do you need a Kleenex? Kleenex is the brand term, right? I don't remember the last time I said facial tissue except for in this example. I always say Kleenex, and I think about it, I'm like, I'm perpetuating that. Another one is Band-Aid. I actually happen to like the brand Curad, which makes Band-Aids, which makes adhesive bandages. But Band-Aid has become synonymous with that adhesive bandage, right? And other companies that make products in that same field, you know, they're just as important. Bubble wrap. This factoid I didn't know. Bubble wrap is a brand name, and it's I believe it's not adhesive, but it's package sealing. It's a type of package sealing, but bubble wrap itself has been trademarked and branded. And another one, this cute, nice little dog here, which is a seeing eye dog. If you a seeing eye dog is only an eye dog that has gone to the Seeing Eye Dog School, which I believe is in Minnesota. Any other dog that's trained to be able to help their owners is a guide dog. So the seeing eye dog is the brand term, and what a seeing eye dog is a guide dog. So from there, we don't want to get into having a .com. We want to get into having a website, having a domain name, having a online presence. But .com is where computers began, and we are very, very thankful. But .com is not where it ends. It's just one of the options, a great option, but it's just one of the options. So I was talking to Ninad earlier, and we were kind of saying through some of the other brand terms that kind of come to mind when you think of, you know, what's that brand that I kind of always call something? One of them, Xerox. You always go Xeroxing. You know, you go copying. You know, and Xerox is a type. Another one is a PowerPoint. So Microsoft coined the term PowerPoint, and it's a program. But Keynote, many times they'll say, oh, did you make your PowerPoint? Yes, I made it out of Keynote. Well, no, I made a presentation and graphics, you know, program. It was Keynote. So that was a fun to me, because I always say, you know, did you have a PowerPoint presentation? Nope. I have a Keynote. So we come from not wanting to brand and, you know, kind of coming out of the .com world, right? Back in the 1980s, Slash was very cool. That's also the same time that domain names came around, right? But in creating some of the website hierarchy and being able to help customers find information inside the website, we have a new mantra, and that is /the dash, or //, excuse me. Get rid of the slash and really help create, in this new era of domain name extensions, really create a channel and how to create web channels and marketing doorways with domain names. So gone, to me, in my opinion, gone are the days where you buy one domain name and maybe you'll buy a few others to protect that brand name and always forward into your homepage. But gone are those days, and now we're entering the days where we use domain names like marketing channels and putting domain names into different parts of the website, different parts of where you have design so that people can find different areas. They're not only just going to homepages. So with over 500 new extensions, there are many, many options for how people can find content, find a lot of the cool stuff that you're building. How can they find it? Using domain names as those marketing channels. And I have an example here in just a moment. And then also having them be short and memorable assets that may forward into a longer string that has the slashes in it, but really using those as tools in marketing campaigns. For example, Nike Store, if you go to try to find one of the Nike stores online, you get this really long, ugly store locator name. Nobody's going to be able to remember that to get back to that. I actually tried to search for it, and you end up getting to the home page, and then you have to click on locations and all of that, versus Nike being able to use Nike.store. Also, they could use store.nike, because it's Nike, they bought their own brand name. Either one would work. Both of them are more memorable than www.nike.com/us/en_us/store-locator. That's really easy to remember. That doesn't even fit on a lot of the places where they're going to want to brand, right? So that all of the really cool design that is in the Nike store, nobody will get to because they can't remember how to get there. So I have an example, right? So we have yourbusiness.com. Yourbusiness.com has been in business for the past 10 years, so they have a really awesome .com name. They're very proud of it. They've been growing. They've been growing outside in multiple countries, Germany, the US, also the UK. They're getting a lot of customers from those countries, so they want to be able to market to those countries. And then they've also been planning a couple of really cool marketing campaigns to be able to promote their products and services and to get people to their website to be able to buy their products, right? So how do we help yourbusiness.com become more memorable to their customers and be able to be found? Here's a potential way to do that. We have Yourbusiness, which is their main website. Yourbusiness.co could be their global place where you can find a lot of the different campaigns that they do. Yourbusiness.us, where they have all of their US customers starting to navigate through from IP Detect. Yourbusiness.de, yourbusiness.co.uk, and then they also have some of their marketing campaigns. They're starting to build a member program for members that are buying their products frequently. You could do that on yourbusiness.club. They have a philanthropic area that they really are starting to go green in a lot of places. So, and they're starting to give back. That is yourbusiness.org. They have a media channel, so they're putting out some really cool videos, and they're really doing a lot of stuff there. That could be at yb.media. because people are maybe typing that in on their phone, and it's really hard to type in yourbusiness.media, so why be .media? They have a blog where they start to talk about all of their really cool products that they're going to be putting out. That could be at yourbusiness.blog. And then all of their video content could be at yourbusiness.tube. And again, this is kind of blown out for example. A lot of businesses may or may not use all of these examples, but this is an example of how we can really use domain names as channels versus all of that at yourbusiness.com/blog/green/videos/this/that, which all leads back to the homepage, but all of these channels can then lead into different parts of the site to really get to the design and the content that is what people are looking for, so that they will come back again and again. We really think that with domain names, it's a link to your global marketing plan, as well as being able to network. So with all of the options there are today, to be able to think of domain names as a way to get into different channels, get into the mindset, and be memorable. People are still learning about domain names. Sometimes when I say that there's 289 CCTLDs out there, people go, really? Oh. There's over 150, 200 generics out there, and then you have a lot more brands. So there's a lot of options. It's not just .comnet and .org, or it's not just .comnet, .org, info, and .biz. I am a fan of the .biz domain name. I think .biz, the domains like .biz, .info, .co that launched a while ago can have a resurgence. And in this new wave of domain names, those are still viable options for customers. They're not old and tired. As with anything new, there are a few challenges that the industry is still working through. One of them you may have heard of, called universal acceptance. This comes in with some of the email issues, because can strings in search engines and or email clients be read? Like if I have a .company, will the email handle that, right? And again, this comes down to channels. You may end up having your customers, and this might not be something that you work on, but being able to provide them information. You may say, hey, if you have a domain name in, let's say, a .biz or a .net or something, that could be where you have your email, but you still have your marketing campaigns and some of these new extensions to be able to be found. But universal acceptance is at usag.tech. And you can follow there. Also, Neustar is a member of the Domain Name Association, and that is where we are doing a lot of work to be able to share to the general public about the value of domain names and what's going on, and that's at the DNA.org. And then also ICANN itself. Again, that's more of a policy body and a little bit more internal and industry-oriented, but there's a lot of information there about, the use in getting out domain names. So one of the things that customers are always looking for, we've gone through the history of domain names, where they came from, right? Looking through how to use domain names as channels and not just using one domain name over and over again, but really being able to get down to the source. But really what customers want is all of that content, all of that awesome website that you guys are building for them. They want to be found, right? Am I going to be found? If I use that new .company that you keep promoting to me, are people really going to find me? When 85% of consumers search for local business online, are the search engines really going to be able to find that new domain name? The answer is yes. There's a lot of good SEM and SEO tools out there, and it really comes down to is that being used? I'm not here today to talk about any of that, but it is really the fact that content is king. It's not content as long as I have a .com. It's content is king. So if you have a good domain name, I believe one that's not super misspelled, If something is short and memorable versus too long, and you have good content, your customers can be found. And then once your customers are found, those websites that you've built with all of that beautiful design, it will be seen, right? But if you don't have good content, if you don't have a good strategy, in some ways it doesn't matter what your design did and it doesn't matter what their name was, they're probably not going to be found. So it really comes down to content. It doesn't come down to, do I have a good .com? So I believe, and that domain names are not a fad. Many people ask, especially in the world of search as we are, where all you do is search and you get links, and people aren't paying attention to the link that they're going to. Well, won't domain names go away? And I believe they won't, because this comes back to what we were just talking about in the end of the last presentation and talking about it at the beginning of this one. The fact that websites in whatever form, and they will definitely evolve, websites will still be out there. People will still be navigating to them. And marketing campaigns and providing campaigns to drive customers to websites will still be out there, which means that domain names in whatever form or fashion will still be around. Even if they're just used as assets to get to a longer string, they'll still be around. So does anybody remember the Laserdisc? That was a fad. It was around for a brief minute. It turned into DVDs, which was awesome, but I can remember Laserdiscs. I was very young at the time, but a couple of my friends' parents who were very well off, they all got Laserdisc players, and I was very jealous. And then a couple years later, you're like, well, whatever happened to the Laserdisc? Another one, 8-track cassettes. This is going way back, but 8-track cassettes, they were around for a brief minute. They ended up turning into cassettes, which were around for a little bit longer before we got CDs and now digital music. But all kind of fads. They led to something else, but they weren't really around long enough to really, really stay. But domain names have been around for 30 years, right? I think there's still a lot to learn, but now more than ever, I think domain names are here to stay. There will definitely be more evolution, even from where we are now. I think when we were talking about some of the products that have poor design or were created only by engineers, EPP is one of those that is awful. And that's actually the system that registering domain names sits on. But I believe domain names are here to stay. And as shown by this picture, you know, we can get to a place where we're using and helping our customers really use them like they should be used. Because when you have an online home, it all starts with your name. Where are you going? How am I naming? How am I branding myself? What am I going to call myself? You know, just a thought. Whenever you meet somebody and you tell them your name, and if they then, let's say, half hour, 45 minutes later, call you by the wrong name, your name is important, right? So having a name is very important. You don't want just a few numbers or, you know, an IP address. It's really about a name. And I wanted to show one last video. This is from a campaign by Donuts. Donuts is in the new round of domain extensions, is one of the companies that had, I believe, over 200 extensions that were approved, and they have launched a little over 100 of them so far. And it's really about freedom of choice. So whether your customers want a .com, which is good, whether they want a .biz, whether they want a .guru, or whether they want a .company or a .online or a .tech, it's really about having the freedom of choice and really being able to share with them the fact that there are more options out there.
It's all about you. It's all about
Last thought, don't stick your head in the sand. You know, sometimes, especially with all the options out here, everything that's been going on in the domain name world, a lot of times it's easier to just think, well, you know, I'll just stick with .com. .com is, you know, .com is the biggest. It's right there. You know, since it's the biggest, it must be the best, right? No, again, .com is not bad, but it's the biggest because it was the first. It doesn't necessarily mean it's the best, or that it's the best option for your customers. And don't let your customers stick their head in the sand too. Again, we always want to give our customers what they want, but to help gently kind of guide them through knowing that there are other options and they can be found online with whatever domain name they choose, as long as they have a good plan for content, for design, for some of those other really important things. It's really not about having a .com, it's really about having a website and an online presence and a home online. So that's it. I knew that I was right before lunch, so I didn't want to hold anybody back from lunch, so I wanted to get through. But also, you know, I'm definitely here for questions, so if you have any questions, please let me know.